Hello, everybody, and welcome to Highlighted Podcast. And as the name says itself, this is the podcast where Jesus is highlighted in every aspect of our lives. I am your host, Adan Rodriguez, and with me today, I have the great privilege of introducing a co-host, right now co-host, but you're going to be seeing her a lot more episodes too as well, Raquel Sanchez. Raquel, introduce yourself to the people. How you doing today?
I am Raquel Sanchez, and I'm excited to be here and co-host with these two guys over here. Just allowing God to stretch me and use me in here.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it, because I think that's what today's topic is going to be about. It's about servanthood and how we have to have a heart of a servant to actually do a lot of the things. But before we actually get into it, I actually have an icebreaker for you. And Raquel, my icebreaker for you is, if you can live a day with any cartoon character in your life, or, for one day, who would you choose and why?
Okay. I would choose Bluey.
Bluey.
All my Bluey fans.
Brian's going to have to put a picture of Bluey in the bottom right here.
Bluey, because a lot of the stories are just about family, patience. It just has a good storyline, and there are a few episodes that made me cry. So
my sons are into it, and believe it or not, even the very first episode that I seen, it really gives off a positive vibe to really actually watching it. So I let them watch it because I do feel like it's actually a really good, really good content for the kids. Yeah, that's the good thing. Mm-hmm. Mine would be Dragon Ball Z. It would be with would be with Goku, just because. He's one of the coolest, cartoon characters to ever be created, at least for me. And I was very sad when the creator did pass away, just because it brought back a lot of childhood memories of running home or waiting, till after school or to my dad would like to watch it at nighttime in Spanish. So,
nice.
Waiting till the soccer games were over so I can have that little time with my dad watching Dragon Ball Z in Spanish.
Yeah.
So
it brings back good memories.
Yeah, it brings back really good memories.
Nice.
And but now let's get on to what we're here for. Raquel.
Yes, let's
First,
do it.
what does it mean or to be a servant?
To be a servant. Well, when we think of a servant, it almost sounds like a slave, right? Someone picking up your trash or serving you water. But I think a faithful servant, if we talk more about the Bible, it means so much, right? Yeah. It means saying yes to God. It means going where he wants you to go. Yeah. I think of Isaiah, and he says, Lord, here I am, send me. Yeah. It could have been anything that God was sending him to, but his faith and his love for his father, brought a yes. So I think it means humbling yourself, thinking of others before yourself. And it means a lot.
Yeah. And just like you were saying, it's funny to say, because you think of the word slave. My verse that I have today, because we actually do want to start providing verses in every one of our episodes, is in Matthew 20, verse 26 to 28. And it says, "But among you, it will be different. Whoever wants to be a leader among you must be your servant." So if you want to be a leader, you have to be the servant.
That's so
and
good.
Whoever wants to be first among you, become your slave. Mm-hmm. So if you want to become first, you got to become the slave, which is a word that a lot of times we don't want to hear, right?
Yeah.
And I love this last part. It says, "For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve others and give his life as a ransom for many," which is just amazing, because I think that's the hard part about serving, is that you got to be, I'm going to use this word, I don't know if I'm using it correctly, but disposable for everybody, basically, for everybody to use.
Yeah. I think you can't serve God unless you serve others.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
Yeah.
You can't give your yes to God unless you're being obedient to him and serving his people and his church, the workplace, wherever you find yourself, your environment, you need to serve. And
I think it all starts off, learning what the vision of your church is, because it may not be your vision per se, but you're also starting to serve under someone else's vision.
Yes.
And that's when, it starts to get hard, because, sometimes you'll clash heads or your ideas will get, in the way, because you're like, wait, I want to serve the Lord, but a lot of times because it's somebody else's vision, you tend to stop it, but that's necessarily not the case at all times.
Yeah. There's people who want to run.
Yeah.
And they want to create their own vision and have their own plan. And it's I don't think it's a bad thing. I think they're just hungry, and they want to serve where they know they could see themselves serving. But Adan, you had an experience.
Yeah, I was about to tell you, I was dodging that rock right now when you threw it. I was like, trying to dodge
you
it.
had a little experience about serving other someone else's vision. So why don't you tell us about that?
I do. So before I came to a small little story, I guess, before I came to Luz del Valle, I was serving at another church. I was working really close with our pastor at that time. And when we tried to leave the church, just because the Holy Spirit started telling me that, this wasn't our place for us to grow anymore, we started looking, and we came to Luz del Valle. And I don't know if you remember at this time, but I didn't want to be a member of Luz del Valle. Yeah. I really didn't whatsoever. I remember I used to get mad at my wife because she used to tell me, yo, Raquel, we're praying so that you become a member from Luz del Valle. And I'm like, no. And in my flesh, I would really get angry. And in my mind, I was like, why am I getting angry? It's just a church, Mm-hmm. And shortly, the Lord starts working his ways and starts telling me, that this is the place where I'm going to start growing.
Yeah.
And when I finally started to settle in, your dad, being the pastor, he started praying, and I guess the Lord revealed to him my ministry. Mm-hmm. And when he revealed to him my ministry, he pulled me to a side one day. He gave me a conversation. He's like, I want to start using you more just because the Lord has a ministry for you. And he revealed it to me through prayer. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, perfect, because that's kind of what I want.
Yeah.
But then a time of like 4, 5, 6 months came, and there was nothing. I was still, just doing media or just doing the sound, actually, not really media, but, and I started doubting. I was like, okay, I'm doubting of my ministry if this is really even the place to be again, because I was really close to starting my own ministry because of what you said, people like to rush forward, right? Just because they want to serve the Lord. And that's exactly how I am. Mm-hmm. And it was at one of the retreats that we had in Bethel. Yeah. And at the healing rooms that they had while they were praying for us, the guy mentioned, and he said, you have been doubtful for your ministry. And I started bawling, I started crying there because I felt the Lord really speaking to me through him. And he said, you've been really doubtful of your ministry. And right now, as I'm praying for you, you're having the vision of your pastors right now. And when I seen that vision, it was true, because before he said that, I was already seeing your mom and dad on the altar holding hands. Wow. That's the picture that I got. Mm-hmm. And when he said that you're seeing your pastors, or you're seeing, the people that you are seeing right now in your head, those are the people that are going to guide you into your walk and going to be your mentors for, this ministry. And right after we had finished, that weekend, I waited till we finished the retreat, and I called your dad. Mm-hmm. And I remember I called your dad, and I told him, hey, Pastor, while they were praying for us, I had this vision kind of happen. And, he told me that the people that I seen, which were you guys, and your Pastora was also listening, your mom was also listening, of what they had told me, that, you guys are going to be my mentors. Yeah. I remember it was through a time that your dad was going through a lot at that time. Yeah. And I remember he started crying over the phone. Mm-hmm. And he was just like, thank you, Adan, because you brought, like, finally, Adan. Because you brought so much confirmation into my life. Yeah. Wow. Because I guess, like, going off of it, I feel like he was really stressing out maybe through a lot of what was happening. Mm-hmm. And he said he was like, God has been giving me a lot of visions and a lot of, like, in my prayers. And I have been seeing you and Juan being like the people that have been lifting up my hands when I am down. Yeah. And that's so awesome. And it was just a beautiful moment that we shared at that time, because it really made me understand that this is the church where I have to serve. Yeah. Yeah. That's so awesome, because God calls us when we least expect it. Yeah. Not when we want, but when we least expect it. True. And it's like Moses. Moses was serving his father-in-law, tending the sheep, just like David. He was tending the sheep. And they were both actually called while they were working, while they were serving, doing what other people would just see so minimal, so small, but
they were just minding their business. They were serving. They were probably cleaning up, I mean, like, and then here you go, Moses, and it's just so wonderful how God will meet us and call us in his timing, but we have to be obedient. We have to listen. And I know that you went through a lot. I was there too. Like, I'm sure many of us experienced that of wanting to run. I think for me, it's been my husband that's been like, wait, honey, like, he's very patient. He organized. He even wants to have it all together before he steps out. And I'm more like, but I want to serve. I want to do this. I want to do that. He's like, honey, it's not time. It's not time. So, but then when God calls you, everything's there. Everything's organized and in order.
And that's the thing, about serving. A lot of people feel like they don't have the time to serve.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. If you look at everybody, and it's a point that you brought up, everybody in the Bible was working when God called them. Everybody from Gideon, from Eli, to Elijah. Everybody was working. Everybody that you can think of. Peter, what was he doing? He was working. Everybody was busy, working. They were all busy already doing something, but they got called upon the Lord, right? And a lot of people get scared to serve because they feel like, I don't have time. have time. And as a servant, God doesn't want, because he knows that nobody has time, everybody has limited time, right? But he wants you to make time for him.
For sure, yeah.
Because that's what he seeks from us.
Yeah, for sure. I think we could wait so long, and we could, God's never going to call me. God's never going to call me to my ministry. God's never going to, I'm never going to fulfill the vision. We start getting this bitterness and we forget, like, it says, I have called you to make disciples. That's it. It didn't say, Adan, I called you to preach. I called you to evangelize. I called you to be a prophet. Like,
or to open up a new church. Or it doesn't say
it doesn't say any of that. It says, I called you to make disciples. And I think we get so confused about, what are we here for? What is my call? And it's just serve.
And it's true. And our call is to serve. And a lot of times, I feel that sadly, in this world and being humans, everybody makes mistakes, right, in our lives. And I feel like a lot of people try to hold on to a certain title sometimes at church or, or in regards to, like, because that's my title. That's who I am. That's my identity. And no, a title does not define who you are. You're serving, who how you serve, your attitude to serving, all that changes, and I'm a big believer that your attitude plays a really big part in how big your blessing is going to be.
For sure, yeah.
And the reason why is because when we get, at least, everybody who works, you've worked, Rocky, I've worked here, Brian has worked, and we're still working, right? When we receive a check, how do you receive the check? Or when you receive your pay? You receive a nice payment, a nice pay stub or anything, right? They don't crumple the check and throw it at you and say, here you go, here's your check. Because that'd be really rude. You'll sue and all this and all that, right? And a lot of times when we come to bring our offering to the Lord, we kind of crumple it and we kind of do this and we kind of do that.
That's
and we
good,
and we're kind of timid to do it, but the Lord knows your heart and what your intentions are and how you're doing it. And that's what counts, not just for offering either, but like in everything. So that's why I say your attitude plays a really big part in your serving.
For sure, yeah. I remember growing up, Brian had asked me the other day, we were all together, are you loyal to your dad just because he's the pastor, just because he's your dad,
Brian. That was a good question.
And I'm like, well, I mean, what daughter wouldn't be loyal to their father? But in the same way, God has always put, because my dad's the pastor, it doesn't mean I have to be here and serve, right? There's a lot of pastors' kids that are like, bye, peace out. Like, I'm going to go do my own thing. But I think, I I already had that servanthood. I remember as a little girl, I would make a tray of like goodies and drinks for my parents, and like I would just bring it to them, and they knew that was my heart already, right? So I remember in my dad's church many years ago, I was part of everything. I was on the worship team. I was in the nursery. I was with the youth. I just filled those positions. Maybe that wasn't my call, and maybe I didn't do it so well.
But you were serving.
But I said, yes, God, I'm here, let me serve.
And I understand you completely, because your dad asked me one time, he's like, hey, what's your calling? Like, what is it? And I was like, I am a filler. That's what I told him. He started laughing,
there
right?
You go.
And I was like, because place me anywhere you want. I'm going to fill it up, Pastor. I'll do it the best that I can. I'll do it with a great attitude, because I just want to serve. That's really all I want to do is just serve.
Yeah, that's so good. Well, then, I guess that was me growing up, like I'll be anywhere you want.
Yeah.
Just, because, I was loyal, and I am loyal.
Yeah.
And the other day I was thinking, man, people must think like when I walk in late to church, I sit in the very front.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
I know.
And I don't do that for attention. I don't do that for, I need the front row. I do it to honor my parents.
Yeah.
I do it because, if they need something, I'm going to be there.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to honor them. I'm going to serve them. I'm going to root for them, because too long I sat in the back.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about physical, right? I'm talking about there was seasons growing up and I turned my back, not physically in the church, but my heart, right? So I'm like, no, like I'm going to make it a point to sit in the front.
Yeah.
And even if my kids are running around, even if I have to walk in late, and then my sister, this is beautiful, because then my sister sits right where her ministry is, the children's.
Yeah, right,
she sits right next to that room number one. Because why? Because if her disciples need something, she's right there.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think it's significant for us. That's how good. It does show loyalty to my parents, and we're here to serve you guys. Yeah. Like, what do you need? What do you want?
Which is good, which is really great, because I believe that he's really happy with that, because, it's sad, like you said, there's a lot of pastors' kids who are no longer even at the church no more.
Yeah.
And it's because of the church has a wrong image sometimes of what a pastor's kid is, and
for sure, yeah.
And they don't understand that they have their own lives, that they're not the pastor. You know what I mean? And I remember I was speaking to Brian. I forgot how the subject came up, but we were kind of speaking about like serving your family, because that's the main thing. You can't serve your church if you don't know how to serve your family.
Yeah,
and that's where it all starts off first, right? Your first church is your home. Like my first ministry is my family.
Yeah.
And I can't serve in the church and be a whole different person who I am at home, And at home, my kids don't need the pastor. My kids don't need the preacher. At home, my kids need the father. They need dad.
They need dad.
They need dad there. And I think a lot of times that's why a lot of people leave, the churches, because they get that false representation that they have to be the pastor at home and away from home. Yeah. And that's not how it is. At home, you should be dad and serve as a dad should serve his kids at all times.
Yeah, for sure. And it may, that could be the reason why me and my sister stayed, because although there was a season where God just elevated him. He was going to school and like he became the pastor, and we did feel like the absence, which is normal, right? And God always took care of us, always. That's I even remember this pastor who was preaching at our church. He said, you know what? God just wants to thank you. And that broke me. He's like, God just wants to thank you because you have given your father freely.
Yeah.
And you've been there for him. And I'm like, wow, God, like just the fact that God notices that and God says, thank you. I'm like, oh, you're welcome. Like you could have him. Like,
it's great. And it comes to the point, where scripture says this: if you are faithful in the little, I will give you more.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's the part that we have to focus on. Everybody wants to be big, like it says in scripture.
Yeah.
But nobody wants to do what is necessary to get to that big, and which is to serve others.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. Let's talk about, so let's go back to how can we serve when we don't know what our call is, like, or
that's a good question. That's actually a really good question, because a lot of people do have that. How do you know what your calling is?
To do,
or how do you know
like,
what you're called to do? What do you do? And it's simple. Everybody from pastor to prophet to teacher to pastor to evangelist and the 5 ministry and everything that's under those 5 ministries, simple. Serve.
Yeah.
That's it. Serve.
Yeah.
And I actually have a question for you, Rocky. How did you know, or at what point did you know that after serving for so long that you knew that this was the right path for you, for your calling, should I say?
You know what?
When did you discover it?
Yeah. So, fortunately, I got the blessing to live, or my uncle and his wife came to live with us at a young age. And
was this your uncle Noel that you always talk about?
Yeah.
Okay, Noel. Okay.
Yes. He was our rock. I mean, that man loved the Lord so much. And anyways, he and his wife would always speak into my life. And I think I mentioned that on another podcast, but they would speak. So he was a prophet, and he would speak directly to me and say, look, you have the gift of healing. You have a gift of prophecy, to speak to others. And so as a young girl, I'm receiving all of this. Right. Okay. And I'm like, well, how does that look, God? Like, oh my goodness, and, I never really paid too much attention to it, but I allowed others to kind of continue to speak that over me. Okay. So what that looked like was when we were at church, sometimes my dad would, knowing that I have a gift of healing, he would allow me he would give space for me to practice. Okay. Which seems so beautiful. Weird, right?
That's beautiful. Yeah,
but I mean, he would use that space. Okay, mija, go lay hands on this person. Even Hermana Adi, she knows that gifting. Go lay hands on that person. And I think Hermana Adi is she's an elder from our church, but she has really encouraged me to live out my giftings. Yeah. And she's like, mija, my arm hurts. I know that God's going to use you. And I'm like, really? Like, okay. You're like, yes. Okay. Yeah. So I'll lay hands on her, and she has a couple times have been healed, you know? So I'm like, okay, Lord, well, I don't know how that looks in this season. I don't know. Should I be studying about, healing and prophecy? And I've taken some classes and education on that, but, I think at a young age, God started speaking to me about what my calling is. And I don't practice that right now, to be honest. Like, I'm a mom, this is new to me being on the podcast. I haven't served like in a ministry for a long time, maybe
but now
too
you're
long,
doing it.
right?
It's never too late. Yeah.
But I do have a little Bible study page on my Instagram, and I used to have a blog, and that's how I feel I get my passion out, and that's how I serve. Yeah, in a way. That's good,
because there's different ways to serve.
There's different ways.
There's different ways, many ways. Like I started off cleaning the bathrooms, and I loved it. And I really did, because when the Lord saved me, that minute that He saved me, I didn't need anybody to tell me you have to serve the Lord. Yeah, it just grew.
It's a passion.
It just grew into me, and I wanted to do whatever I could. And the only thing that they had at that time was they needed somebody to clean the bathrooms, because I guess everybody was tired of cleaning the bathrooms. Yeah, and I would clean the bathrooms with so much passion. Maybe I didn't do it the best. Maybe I didn't clean it the best. But I remember every time I would go into the bathroom to clean it, I would say, Lord, your prince, is sitting in this throne. That's how I would put it, right? And I would clean it to my best of my abilities at all times. And people start noticing, like, oh wow, he really wants to serve. He wants to serve. to serve. So they're like, hey, Adan, you want to do this? And then I was like, yeah, sure. Hey, Adan, you want to start doing this? Yeah, sure. And as you're saying, always saying yes, which is not always a great thing, because
you got to know your limits.
As a server, you got to learn to say no too as well, right? And that's how I started, at least, getting to know my ministry, my calling. through serving others at first.
Yeah.
Putting not me first, putting others first at all times. And then that's when, you know, as mentioned earlier, in the, you know, if you were faithful in the little, I will put you in the more, right? And being faithful in that little that I had, as he was placing me into more and more, I started realizing that, okay, God, what you're revealing my calling to me, my real calling to me, little by little. But as long as I keep serving you, then I'll be able to actually know what it is when the time comes. Yeah.
And that's good because you end up kind of recognizing the call over your life. Yeah. You know, I remember when I was on the worship team, the nursery and all this, I even preached, you know, and one of my first sermons was about servanthood.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and I just found such a passion for preaching, you know, for speaking about the word. And I just really picked up on that. And I remember Danny Lima, he told us, this is how you could know what you're passionate for. If you are in a room and there's instruments, there's books, there's, I don't remember what else he said, but right away I'm like, man, if I was in a room with all these things he had mentioned, I would choose books. And if you know me, I'm a little ditzy, like it's hard for me. It's hard for me to catch on to things and like.
It's okay, Raquel. We can tell. We're just glad you noticed.
I really have to like if I have to study a little extra for it to like process, right?
Okay.
So, but I love books. Yeah. I love history. History was one of my favorite subjects in school. I love all of that. So I'm like, wow, Lord, like I do have a desire to preach your word. However that looks. Like right now I said I have a little Bible study page on Instagram and that's how I preach in this season of my life, right?
It doesn't necessarily have to be at the church at all the times, you know, and that's the thing. Yes, the church is important, you know. Coming to church is important too as well. I'm not saying that don't come to church, but there's many ways to serve even outside of church too as well, you know. And one being your family, you know, especially, you know, you can relate to this, Raquel, being parents. Serving your kids can do a really big deal. You know, it can be really amazing because Adam has gone to the point, he's my 6-year-old now, and he's big, man. Like today I was praying and, you know, I was like, he's almost 10. And then I almost started crying, you know, just because he's getting so big. Yeah. But when he gets stuck in school, he keeps telling me, Papi, I got stuck in school and I didn't know the answer to it. And I got nervous. And I told him, but what you do, Papi? He's like, I closed my eyes and I said, Jesus, help me. And that blew me away because me serving him is showing him that, you know, that I'm always going to be there for him no matter what. And I want him to see that, you know, that yes, even though I preach at the church, yes, even though I might be a leader at the church, I'm still his dad all the time. And I'm always going to be his dad all the time.
For sure.
And that's my way of serving him, is being his dad.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think for a mom, it's a little different. Yeah. I think for us moms, I think it's a
said constant, you can speak on that.
It's a constant giving of yourself. And as a mom, I get bitter. Like I do. Like we're not gonna lie, right? I mean, I'm like, oh, I got to do this again. I got to serve you again. I mean, I had to learn to wake up an hour before my children so I could have a moment, because once I wake up late and they wake me up, there's no going back. Like I won't.
Everything's going 100 miles per hour from
exactly.
there.
So God did and is having to check my heart in serving my home. Yeah. Because you get tired, you know, you get weary. Of course. It becomes so mundane. So, you know, and I'm like, Lord. And then I remember reading something that it's just an honor to serve your family. It doesn't have to look perfect. Your house doesn't always have to be in order. But the fact that, like you said, your kids will need you. Yep. I mean, they need me. Yeah. They need us. They need mom. You know, they need mom. They need dad.
They don't need preacher. They don't need prophet. Exactly. They need mom. They need dad. That's what they need.
And I think my thing was always having it has to look like this. Mm-hmm. And even my husband knows that about me. And he's like, just let it go. Just, you know, basically without him saying it, he's like, just love them. Yeah. You know, just be patient. I'm like, okay. But Yeah, serving the home is a whole other thing. But it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Why do you feel it's so unpopular for people not to serve?
It's not common. I feel like for our generation right now we're living in, it's not common to just be humbled servants.
Yeah, that's good actually.
Humbled servants, because we want a title. We want our face to show everywhere. And it's not common these days to be that humble servant, to open a door for someone, to look around the church and see who needs a helping hand or prayer. It's just not common anymore.
And that's so true. It's like I said, serving can be anywhere. I remember, when I was young, I would see this a lot more often. My dad was always helping, the old lady who was single, who couldn't put the groceries in her car all the time, And now somebody does it and they film it and they get like 1,000 million views, just for it. And then I always think like, people used to do this all the time. What stopped us from doing this? Or small things like you said, even open the door for people or all that. But everybody wants to have that spotlight, or follow that spotlight or hold on to a title when it's just a title. It's nothing else more to that. And sometimes people are scared to let go of a title, and they don't know that if you let go, the Lord has something a lot better for you in the future, too, as well.
Yeah. I think we're also just so busy and in our own minds, I remember doing that a lot more often before I had my kids.
Okay.
I went away to a discipleship program, and that's all they taught us was servanthood.
Yeah.
So that was we were the last ones at the church. We were stacking up chairs, setting up, tearing down. We would go feed the whole, servanthood was my life for a whole year. So when I came to church, it was so uncommon. Mm-hmm. Like I felt so out of place.
Yeah.
And it broke my heart. And I'm like, Lord, is this are we serious right now? This is how life is?
This is the church.
Because I was in a box.
And it's scary because to see the church like that.
Yeah. Because I was in a total box. And it was a constant. Yeah. So when I came home and I didn't see that, and when the hermanos were taking down the chairs, I was helping them. They're like, Mija, you don't have to do that. I'm like, yeah, I do. Let me do it, because if I do it, maybe someone else will do it.
Yeah. They'll get motivated to do it too as well, which is amazing, which is awesome because, Scripture just says, be an open book for everybody, be transparent, right? And having that transparent servant heart to serve at all time or to help at all time. Pick up the little trash that you see at the church. So anything small that you can help out with, the Lord sees it.
Yeah. But even outside the church, like you said, we have to be more aware of people, and teach our kids that, my kids have helped people with their groceries before. Not often, but if you see someone struggling, let them know that you're there to help. And it's so uncommon. That's why we don't do it. It's really just uncommon. Weird. It's weird now.
And it's funny because I remember you told us this story, and it's about Caleb, right? And it's having the servant heart, like you said, right? Mm-hmm. And people may think of it as something funny, but you guys used to dress him up with a lot of costumes at this time. I don't know if you remember, right? And you guys having the cop costume. And you guys went to the beach, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you want to go a little bit in regards to that story.
Was it when he was trying to protect me?
Yeah, no. When he seen that a boyfriend girlfriend couple were he was dragging the girlfriend into the water, and he's like, "Hey, ma'am, do you need help?" Because he's in his police outfit. You and Juan were telling me about this.
That's right. Yeah. I think Juan probably saw that more. But
that's a servant heart right there, because him seeing you serve, in the church, he's seen total strangers. Yeah, they were playing around, boyfriend, girlfriends do, trying to get him in the water. But in his mind, she needed help. So he has the police costume on, and he's like, "Hey, ma'am, do you need help?"
I remember that. Yeah. Like you said, they see that, they learn from it. And hopefully it comes natural to one of my kids,
It will. It will.
So, but I do I have been in situations where I'm in a group of young people, and there's things going on. Like even maybe when I was a youth leader, like I had things in my hand, and I would have to teach these teenagers, like, help me. It's okay to help. Like, you extend a serving hand, you know? So we have to teach them. We have to teach them. It's not their fault. It just doesn't come naturally anymore. So we got to teach them.
And that's great because, you know, believe it or not, I was speaking to a certain individual, you know, and he's actually behind the camera. So it's actually Brian. And kind of let him know, like, you know, hey, you know, Brian, like, you know, I wanted to ask him because he took a decision, you know, and, you know, getting out of the youth committee. And I just kind of wanted to know what the reason was, you know, for him to take that big of a decision, right? And one of the things is that he was just saying, like, you know, I feel like the youth need to learn to serve, and it's great because we need people like that. We need people to observe and to watch and to be able. So when it happened, I spoke to Vede right now at the moment, and I was like, hey Vede, what if I were, because she had given me a topic for this Jesus night, was like, what if we were to do about something about serving? Right. And then she's like, you know what, that's actually really great, because I was thinking about it too as well, because we, like you said, we got to start teaching people to serve and start teaching the youth to serve. And if you don't teach them it, you know, the way the scripture says it, then they're not going to be able to pick it up then.
Even honoring, I know we got to wrap up, but even honoring and serving the people, the leaders in your church, in your own church. I mean, yes, your parents in your home and your boss, you know, but there's something so beautiful about serving your leaders, your pastor. Like, pastor, do you need water? Pastor, let me take your jacket. You're not, you know, and most people don't do that because of pride. I'm not, he could carry his own jacket, you know. He looked at me weird the other day. Well, we go back.
I asked for his help and he didn't give it to me. Now he wants my help and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
And it goes back to humbling.
The church is pretty big. I'm not going to lie. And this Easter Sunday, whoa, man, there was so many people at the church, you know? And if he has to pastor all those people, it's so hard to get to everybody. You know, Moses couldn't do it. You know? And his what's it called? Father-in-law got mad at him. He said, what are you doing? You can't do this. And what did he tell him to do? Now you got to make a group of people that are faithful servants, and that you know that you can depend on, so that they can take care of the hundreds, the tens, the 50s, and the thousands, and then you just speak to the leaders, kind of thing, right? And people get so hurt, like, for what you said. Oh, he didn't say hi to me, and
where's the humbleness there?
Where is it? You know, and
the loyalty,
and you have to be humble to serve. You have to. Jesus gave the greatest example of all.
The washing of the feet.
It's my favorite. You know, it's one of my favorite stories because he, like we said, we all know he's 100% man and he's 100% God. And for him to have the power to do anything and say, you know what, the power that I want is to wash your feet. That's amazing.
I mean, born in a barn, washing his disciples' feet, riding on a donkey. I mean, those things are so humbling. You know?
And today we want to be riding in Lamborghini. You know? We want to be not. We didn't want to wash feet. You know, we want no one to step on our Jordans and stuff like this. You know, the culture has changed so much in regards to serving. You know, I remember, it's funny because I remember one of the youth leaders at my old church. You know, when we used to get together to do like the district leaders. When he would pray, he would take off his shoes so he wouldn't crease them to pray. And in my mind, I was like, it's just a materialistic kind of thing, you know? And it's just, you know, he will still pray, he will still preach, but it was like, you know, once you get to learn to understand that, you know, serving is more than your shoes and the cost of your shoes, I think that the Lord will take you to a lot of bigger places in the world.
For sure, yes. But yeah, that is one of my favorite stories of the washing of the feet. And I'm just blessed to serve a humble God, you know?
What would you say to somebody who is questioning whether they should serve at church or not, or they don't even know where to start?
I would say, you know, it all goes back to relationship. You know, you can't enter a room it's weird to enter a room and offer someone water when you don't know them, right? But it's different when you start talking to them and getting to know them. What's your name? What are you here for? Then you'll offer the water, right? So I think when you're in a relationship with Christ, that love and that passion, that servanthood will come natural to you.
Amen.
That when you're so in tune with him, it is hard because you have this person that says, but I want to do something. Yeah. I desire to do something. But then it's just a desire. Yeah. It's just a wish. Yeah. But when you fall in love with Christ, then you're able to go to your pastor and say, hey, look, I'm willing to serve in whatever. Yeah. And not even maybe asking him, like you said, just checking the bathrooms, cleaning up the mess. There's always a mess. Let me tell you, when I walk back there, the kitchen and all these places.
When you say back there, I'm assuming it's where my kids sit, because I know there's always a mess there.
Not that back, but yeah. But you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like your heart is just, you almost don't even have to ask for that permission. Yeah. You just do it out of love.
And you have to understand, like you said, serving is basically what the word says, to serve, you know? When I've had to pick up my kids' mess, the ushers are awesome at the church and they'll be like, hey, let me pick it up for you. But I feel bad for them. And I want to show them, no, it's okay. I can do it too as well to help you guys out too as well. So you see me there sometimes with the little broom, picking up all the crumbs that my kids left. Yeah. And I always joke around, be like, that I have kids because, I'm doing this. And that's what it is. Just help out. Help your church out.
Yeah. Grab the towel. Yeah. That's what Jesus did, right? He
grabbed the towel. He didn't ask for permission to grab it.
The disciples were arguing who's the greatest. He said, the greatest among you, right? Who's the greatest? No, you are. And then Jesus comes and he's like, let me grab the towel. Let me do this and let me show you. Let me be that example. So
he didn't hesitate.
Just doing it. Yeah. People are going to, you have those people who truly desire to serve. And then you have those people who are like, no, like I don't want to humble myself and do that, But
and then you have those people who want to serve just to be seen, and you got to be careful with those people too as well,
Yes,
that they want just to be seen, just to be seen, but that's not the point, And the point is to actually serve. I remember, and is it an analogy? Is that what you call it? A little story, I guess, or a little comparison. That my ex-pastor used to say, which I really do like a lot. He says, when you're serving others, it's like when, when he says, it's like you're the jacket from a couple, and he was, because he was from the older days, right? He says, when you're walking with your couple and you see, a puddle of mud and all that, before in our old times, we used to take off our jacket so that the girl would walk over the mud.
Now you just push her in.
Right? And he says, to be a servant, you have to be that jacket. What does that mean? That people are going to step on you. Wow. People are going to get you dirty. But what do you do at the end of the day? You get up. You just move it again. You take off the dirt as much as you can, and you keep going because that pleases the Lord. That jacket is the servant, and that pleases the Lord.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah,
not the person that's walking over it. He wants you to be that jacket. Yeah. That person that's helping others to get to the other side.
That's so good.
And that's an analogy that he had, that that he would say a lot, that really stuck to me, and really realizing that, serving the Lord it's a great thing to do.
Yeah.
So if you're out there and you're at your local church and you're thinking of serving, or you don't know what to do, we encourage you to grab the towel like Jesus did and start serving. Grab the towel, ask your pastors, what you can help in, and I'm sure, I'm 100% sure that the more time you do it, you'll really understand what your calling is, what you are called to do, what your ministry is, because we're all called to serve. Yes. Everybody, doesn't matter your title, doesn't matter pastor, leader, servant, worship leader, worshiper, doesn't matter. Everybody's called to serve at the end of the day, and that's the biggest thing that you can do. And just like, we read earlier today in the scripture, if you want to be big, like Matthew 20 says, whoever wants to be a leader among you, be the servant of everybody.
Amen.
If you want to be first, be the slave of everybody. Because just like Jesus came to, he didn't come to serve, to be served. He came to serve. He washed the feet. He died on the cross for us. He did everything for us. He served us. You know, he became to serve us, and we encourage you to do the same, not just in your church, but anywhere you can do it. If you see somebody that needs help for anything, tell them, you know, help them out with the groceries, help them out with whatever you can, because that also is you're being the light in the world with that. So
go the extra mile.
Go that extra mile like Jesus, you know, Jesus did. You know, so we thank you for tuning in to Highlighted Podcast. You know, I am your host, Adan Rodriguez, co-host and host Raquel. We love you guys, and thank you guys for tuning in.